Right, good afternoon, everyone. It all quiets down in the room just right on time. My goodness. This is a public meeting of the School Board of West Bend Joint School District Number 1. More than 24 hours prior to the meeting, notice of the time, place, date, and subject matter of this meeting was posted at the entrance doors of the Education Service Center and on the district's website. It was also sent to the West Bend Community Memorial Library, the Daily News, WRYU, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and other media sources that have requested notice of our meetings. I'll just pause to ask Superintendent Wimmer to confirm that this meeting was properly posted.
Yes, it was.
Great, thank you. Please rise and join us in reciting the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. We recognize a quorum of our board. 6 of our members are present tonight. The 7th, Dr. Temez, is unable to make it tonight, so we look forward to seeing him at a future meeting. With that, next on our agenda is to consider approval of this agenda, which was published in advance. I move to approve the agenda. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Kelly. Motion and second to approve this agenda. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. Our agenda is approved. We then move to our recognition item for tonight, state recognition for West Girls Track and Field. And Erin Felber, our West Athletic Director, is going to come to the podium and walk us through this recognition. Good evening.
Hello. Thank you so much for having us. I'm excited to be here to recognize 2 of our superstar track and field athletes from the West Girls team. And you will hear all about them from Coach Matt Wani. Come on up, girls.
Either side or something? Is that right?
Okay, so do either side and stand and face us so that our audience at home can see you clearly. Fantastic. Thank you. Please proceed.
We're good? All right, cool. Thank you again for taking time to recognize our state qualifying athletes. West has been fortunate to have high-quality athletes compete for our track family. Our team culture has fostered state champions and multiple relays and individuals who have made the podium, which is the top 6. At the state meets, as well as 32 relays that have made the state meet in the last 13 years. So these 2 girls certainly have left their mark on our team history. So first is Amaya LaFontant. Don't let her $1 million smile fool you. She can put on her game face and is a great competitor, for sure. A tremendous athlete, Amaya qualified for state in the 100 hurdles with the 3rd fastest time in team history and placed 14th at state. She also broke a 44-year record, 1981, a 44-year record, and became the school record holder in the disc with a throw of 123 feet 3 inches. So that was a pretty cool day. Actually, she broke it 3 times. So, but that was her furthest mark. A vital part of our relay teams, Amaya really rose to a new level this year. She'll be competing at UW Oshkosh next year in track and field. So congrats, Amaya. Awesome. Riley Failing. Riley certainly made her mark in our team history as well as the state's track history. Riley qualified for state in the 100 meters, the long jump, and the 300-meter hurdles. At state, she broke the school record in the 100 meters and placed 10th. She jumped the 3rd longest in team history and placed 8th in the long jump, and then rebroke her school record and ran the 6th fastest time in state history in the 300-meter hurdles and placed 2nd at state in 300-meter hurdles, which actually 3 of the top 6 times in state history were run at the state meet. So it was quite a competitive field. So also, the conference coaches voted Riley as the female track athlete of the year. So congratulations to Riley. We're obviously looking forward to having you back next year. Okay, she was a junior, which is awesome. So as you heard, these 2 athletes are hurdlers, and so I want to give a shout out to my daughter, Amanda. She's a 3rd grade teacher at Jackson. So who is our hurdle coach on our team, as well as she's really known in the area for producing great hurdle athletes. So we're obviously happy to have her on our staff. So Amaya and Riley, what a great year that they really had. So thanks, ladies.
Well, Coach, thank you for the presentation. Ladies, what fine accomplishments. Thank you for coming tonight. We're glad to have learned about your accomplishments, and thank you for sharing them with us. So we'll move on with our meeting. We just pause to recognize this is a public meeting, so we invite you to stay for the entire meeting if you'd like. We also understand you may have some other things to do, so we're not offended if this is the time that you decide to depart. Thank you again for sharing your accomplishments with us and allowing us to recognize you. We appreciate it very much.
Thank you for taking the time to do this. It's an honor to have them come.
You're very welcome. It's our honor. Thank you. Next is public participation. We have one public participation comment card, and that's from Ms. Jody Geenan. And so, Ms. Geenan, why don't you come up to the podium now? And Ms. Geenan, as you arrive, I know, thank you for presenting tonight, and I know you've participated in public participation in the past. I can read our policy 187, but I believe you're familiar with its contents. Would you like me to read the policy?
It's up to you. If you want to read it, you can, but otherwise I don't really need it.
Board members, any objections to waiving me reading policy 187? Well then, Ms. Geenan, you indicated on your public participation comment card that you are a resident of the district. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Great. So if you could please state your name for the record, and then the next 3 minutes will be yours according to the timer.
So my name is Jody Geenan, and I'm a resident and taxpayer in the city of West Bend. Okay. So I changed this up a little bit on my way here, so it's probably going to be a lot, hopefully, shorter than it was. But, okay, I am here regarding book club book lists, specifically the grade 8 quarter 1 book club list, but what I'm going to talk about probably pertains to all the book lists. Carol Hager and I found a couple of matters that we would like to bring to yours and the public's attention in order to help circumvent confusion and to help families with digging deeper when trying to decide which books their children should avoid. The first issue concerns the book review resource Book Looks, which is still listed on the forms regardless of being shut down in March and no longer providing book reviews. Interestingly, during the curriculum committee meeting last week, the staff was aware that Book Looks was shut down, but they chose to leave it on the form because all but one of the books had been previously reviewed by Book Looks last school year. But in order for the parents and the members of the community to know that that's what they had in mind, there really should be a notation. Otherwise, it just looks like the school district failed to do the work to check that that whether it's operable or not. So there really should be a notation put on there about that change needs to be made. Also, we were wondering why there was no comparable resource offered in its place. And we have a couple of recommendations for a book look replacement. One that we previously suggested, the resource was pluggedin.com. It's very thorough when reviewing books, categorizing subjects of interest such as basic review, plot summary, Christian beliefs, other belief systems, authority roles, profanity and violence, sexual content, discussion topics, and additional comments, including drug and alcohol abuse. They've got some extra categories that Book Looks didn't have. However, it does lack things like telling you how many times a certain word might have been used in the book and things. So we just also happened to learn about a website, book review website that we think is actually the exact parallel to Book Looks, and it is called ratedbooks.com. And so I think that we would make that our first recommendation, and I feel like, although I believe that the one issue that we have, that the school district might have with pluggedin.com is that the people that run it are Christian-based, their focus on the family. However, when you go through their book reviews, you will find that it does no proselytizing, because it even talks about the Muslim and the Jewish perspective and things like that. It says its content, themes, and worldviews of fiction books, not... Oh, I'm out of time.
Right.
Okay. So anyway...
Thank you for the information. And I think in
Yeah.
the past, you have supplied us copies of your comments.
Yeah, so, okay, wonderful, because I think you're going to like the rated books thing, because then I guess, but I do think that we do have Christians in our community, so we do need to represent them too. But
Thank you.
if we have a good thing, then wonderful.
Thank you.
Okay.
Appreciate your comments. Thank you. Just double checking, I don't see any other public participation comment cards, so our public participation section is closed. Thank you again. We move then to our consent agenda. On our consent agenda tonight, we have the following items. Minutes of the July 28th, 2025 regular board meeting. There's one contract, one resignation, no retirements. Then supplemental work pay rates, an agreement modification with Epstein Ewan Architects, or EUA, for a fixed fee amount for Green Tree and McLean projects, as well as disbursements posted to August 8th, 2025. Any questions on any of the items on the consent agenda? Hearing none, I'd move to approve the consent agenda. Is there a second? Thank you, Joe. Motion and second to approve the consent agenda. Any final discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you. That motion carries. We move then to reports, and our first report is our curriculum committee report, and Melanie Ergot, our committee chair, will give that report. Melanie.
Thank you. All right, so the curriculum committee met on August 5th of 2025. We discussed revisions to book club permission forms, and in addition to the 8th grade quarter one book club list to include the Transall Saga by Gary Paulson. Each book club permission slip contains references from Amazon BookLooks and Common Sense Media to aid families in reviewing books. We are aware that BookLooks is no longer in operation and will clarify that in the existing permission slip. We will continue to include that reference as families may be familiar with it and the information has already been gathered. We have asked the department to recommend new book review and reference websites for families to use so that in the future we can replace BookLooks. As a follow-up to the prior full board discussion, the committee also discussed the book club consideration process, including thresholds and definitions. This discussion will continue with the policy committee on August 19th before returning to the full board. Kelly Downs provided updates on the summer curriculum work and highlighted the gathering of teachers to continue the ELA resource review for grades 6 through 10 and upcoming math implementation training that begins today. This concludes my report.
Thank you, Melanie. Any questions for Melanie? We appreciate your report. Superintendent Wimmer, I believe the next is the superintendent's report.
Yes. First, I'd like to extend my sincere appreciation to Buildings and Grounds Department staff. On Sunday, they walked every one of our properties inside and out to ensure that our schools had not sustained damage from flooding in the area. Thankfully, we experienced only minor damage, primarily affecting our outdoor athletic spaces where water is still pooled. Some water entered buildings but was able to be mitigated quickly thanks to the many facilities employees who came in at night over the weekend to respond to the situation. So their diligence ensured we could quickly assess and address any concerns. So I just wanted to say thank you to those staff for doing so. The opening of a new Jackson Elementary School for fall of 2027 continues to be an exciting project. So this summer, the district has submitted the village-required traffic impact analysis, the certified survey map, and rezoning applications ahead of schedule. The village provided us with a standard template that they use for private developers. However, following our legal review, we believe our partnership as two public entities calls for more of an interagency agreement. And it should probably, some of theirs was a little bit more open-ended, should include a cap on expenses to our district. I would recommend looking at $20,000 on reimbursable outside services that they might need to continue moving that project forward. That way the village can access their needed expertise while providing clear cost limits to us as a district. Because looking ahead, we want to be able to submit in September conditional use applications. We want to hit their October 16th Plan Commission timeline because we want to be issuing our bids in November. So all these pieces of the puzzle need to fall in place. So we really value their collaboration and think that that approach with kind of interagency mutual agreement will help keep our project on pace. We'll meet deadlines, we'll secure favorable bids, and deliver the new school on time and within budget for our community members. So again, we're looking at an alternate agreement. I would work with our legal counsel to start drafting and moving forward on that so the village has assurance that we'll put that in place. Are there any questions on that item or comments?
I think you and I had a chance to talk about this a little bit in advance. So just as an example, based on how the village's size and how they work, they may need an engineering review, which may be a larger city or West Bend. They might have someone like that on staff. The village maybe not.
Correct.
So they would use an outside entity to do that, and they're saying, well, if that's the case, normally if it were a developer, they pass that cost along. That seems to me actually to be reasonable, that if that's an out-of-pocket expense that they would have and it runs to our benefit, so I think that's fine. The idea of, oh gosh, there's no cap on it doesn't make as much sense, but something like a $20,000 cap, that seems very reasonable, and also would help expedite the timeline to make sure it's appropriate, so those
Absolutely.
are my thoughts. I don't know, Chris, you have experience in these matters as well?
Well, I had shared via email that, typically when I work with developers, we talk about time or money, right? If you have on a quicker timeline, then yeah, you're going to put up some money in order to make this happen. And I think we're kind of in a precarious situation where we are kind of on a deadline. So the happy medium there to say, yes, there are going to be some costs that we acknowledge that we're willing to take on in order for this development to be constructed and met on time, I think are appropriate. And it doesn't make us any different than any other project that would go through a village review. So I'm happy with how this turned out as well.
Yeah. We're happy to keep that one on time and going as well. Another piece is around the UW-Washington County campus. At our last board meeting, I provided an update regarding that campus, that nothing was needed kind of as a next steps at the time. That task force was going to meet the following Thursday to review a proposal for purchase. And for a brief time, a draft of a potential programs was included in their county packet in error. When the error was pointed out, it was removed. However, that temporary inclusion from the school district created a lot of confusion for people. In fact, I just took a call today from Biz Times. They were doing an article and approaching me, and I continued to reference, this is the county and city's property. Whatever they need or what they're looking at doing, we kind of stand at the ready to offer ideas. But there's a whole separate task force that's making recommendations and separate entities that review. It's not really ours. So I just wanted to take a moment to ensure clarity of how we are and aren't involved in those pieces and kind of how we've participated in discussions thus far. So in August of 2024, so quite a while ago, the county superintendents wrote a formal letter of interest in having a seat at the table. Ideas started to buzz around the potential for that, and the concept being circulated at the time was to create a social capital concept, an idea where there might be anywhere from daycare to elder care to perhaps school age opportunities on that campus, nonprofits, a variety of things. So we welcomed a seat at the table. A county-led task force was formed, and we were invited to further present some concepts in January. So superintendents collaborated on that. Myself and another superintendent presented. And again, we just shared high-level ideas for collaborative and consolidated services that could include academic and college readiness, career and workforce development, as well as student services and support. Fast forward to June, when we were approached by the county to provide additional detail if that site were made available. So we started thinking about ideas on kind of how we could put meat on the bones of those concepts, and then the task force received that offer that they were reviewing on that Thursday. So we, again, as I stated in the last meeting, reached out, is there anything needed from us? They noted nothing further was needed from our district at the time, which again, I reported at the last meeting. So since that task force last met, the county executive and city mayor have announced a campus update and community Q&A this Thursday, August 14th from 5:30 to 6:30 p.m. at the former UW-Washington County site on University Avenue. So if the public wanted to express interest in that, that lies with the county and the city. It's their property and those pieces. Again, we just say if you need ideas for that, we stand at the ready to contribute. Anything from the board or anything you want to contribute or anything you would like to see, or otherwise, until asked, I wouldn't be moving forward on anything.
And remind me, I think the genesis for the idea of, and I'm trying to remember the words that you just used, kind of the social services, or that vision, that was something that the county had
Correct.
envisioned.
They started circulating that a little bit earlier in the process, so kind of looking at different iterations and hearing from different groups around potential. So unsure, they're faced with a decision such as we are with some of our properties we're exiting. Are you renting it? Are you tearing it down? Are you selling it? Or what are you doing with those things? So we certainly know and understand what they face, but that is their property to determine what to do next.
I think from my perspective, the idea of exploring ideas, it sounds like we explored it. We shared that information with the task force, and that's one idea among many, perhaps.
Yeah, sometimes I get asked or told, like, they're waiting for the district to make, some kind of proposal or anything. And I said, we were asked, we contributed our ideas, and we have not been asked again. So that's where I let that one lie. So I don't know if the board wishes me to do anything further, but
Joe?
I mean, I thought what you submitted made a lot of sense logically and would be I can't think of a better use for the building that would benefit more citizens of the county.
yeah.
I'll just leave it at that.
And again, we stand at the ready, but I think sometimes people are, like I said, I get some calls every now and then, like, well, are you going to submit this? They're saying you need to submit something. And I'm like, we have not been told that that's a next step in any way. So I guess, they're taking a step to hear from the community and those pieces, and maybe we'll go from there. Maybe we'll be approached again on something. I do not know. Again, it's not our process. So any questions or anything on that? Great. I appreciate the opportunity to clarify. Like I said, it created a lot of confusion for our community members when those things were included. Right around the corner is school starting. So an essential part of preparing for the school year was completing back-to-school registration. So thank you to everyone who completed that by August 8th as requested. So if you're planning on coming to school, still register. What was important about August 8th was that's when we were moving into routing for transportation. So anything received after that includes a request for transportation, we may have some difficulty honoring in those first few weeks because routes are in process right now. But again, get that in as soon as possible, make those requests. Just if you can, if you have any questions, just know that anything submitted after that deadline regarding transportation may be delayed. We will work with you in every case, but just a heads up on that. Tomorrow, Jumpstart events are going to be held at Jackson, Decorah, Fair Park, Silverbrook, and Badger. So these are events that are specific to kids that are new to their school and are entering kindergarten, 5th, 7th grades. They provide a fun, welcoming way to ease that transition, get to know their building before they officially start. Due to that ongoing construction, Green Tree Elementary is going to host an outdoor meet and greet tomorrow exclusively for kindergarten students and their families. So they'll have an opportunity to meet their kindergarten teachers, connect with the principal, and ask questions. However, at McLean, all of the exterior windows are being replaced, so the entire area is kind of a construction zone, so we cannot open that opportunity. However, they are going to host a meet and greet for all grades on Wednesday, August 27th from 4 to 6. Again, don't worry, all those schools will reach out to families with more information, but we just wanted to kind of put that on the radar that there's some differences this year. I just have a very brief construction update to let you know what's going on. There's no big report. Tim will come back and give a larger report at our next meeting, but our Findorf crews totaling 80 to 100 workers are progressing on priority areas at Green Tree and McLean to ensure that our schools open on schedule. At McLean, drywall, hallway flooring, painting are underway. Office flooring prep started this week. A lot of mechanical installations are continuing, and window replacement has begun, which I think will be transformational on that campus. So there is some work extending beyond first day, but that is planned for. At Green Tree, painting, tile work, cabinet installation are all in progress. We had a lot of bathroom renovations. They're advancing. Priority mechanical work is on schedule, and most windows are replaced this week. So again, we might have some things that extend, but those are planned for. All of our planned construction for this summer is on time, and no delays to opening are foreseen. And I'd like to congratulate School Board Member June Kruger, who's been recognized by the Wisconsin Association of School Boards, or WASB, for achieving Level 1 status in their member recognition program for participation in various WASB events. You know, June reps the board at their annual meeting as well. I think she gets some bonus points for that. But thank you, June, for representing the board and the district. We appreciate it. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Any questions for Superintendent Wimmer regarding her report? And I'll echo congratulations, June. Well done. All right. We'll move then to our discussion topics tonight. I believe we have one discussion topic tonight, and that is employee healthcare access and affordability opportunities. And Mr. Lenny Hansen, our Assistant Superintendent, is at the podium and will be walking us through this item. Good evening.
Good evening. Tonight, we're going to look ahead a little bit to our upcoming new plan year for employee benefits, which is January of 2026. Be able to talk about some new opportunities that we're investigating and just foreshadowing where we're heading on that ahead of action items that would appear later in the fall. So what we're going to do first is kind of take a quick look at some of the kind of low or no cost healthcare options that are available to employees, and then we're going to talk about some of the enhancements and ads we've been investigating as well. So I can't cover everything, but I'll cover the biggest ones. The school district clinic is one that most of us are familiar with. It's currently housed in the Froedtert West Bend Health Center, is free to our employees and any dependent who is covered on the district's health insurance plan. That's probably our most utilized free low-cost option available. But then a few years ago, we added to those offerings by adding the Fast Care Clinic. Now, Fast Care is a Froedtert walk-in or appointment clinic available in Meijer stores. This has really exploded in popularity since we've added it. It's open 7 days a week. It's open in evenings, so it really meshes well with what we're able to provide with the clinic, especially the hours that the clinic's not available. The clinic is able to do some services that Fast Care can't, but together they put together a really comprehensive offering so that employees can avoid things like urgent care and emergency room visits unless they really need that level of care, and then both of those are free for employees. We're always watching the trends, so we do see, ever since we brought on Fast Care, that Fast Care has rocketed up in terms of popularity. Some of that has been at the expense of the clinic's usage, which would be expected. You're not going to make a visit to each, but I just included some basic information around the clinic quarter. This past first quarter compared to 2 years ago, we are down some around 100 visits. Fast Care in just the last year is up more than 65. That's a trend we've been seeing ever since we introduced Fast Care. We don't view that as a bad thing. That means people are finding value in both offerings, but we do continue to just watch those trends to see how can we make sure that we're providing what employees are looking for, right? Where employees are going is communicating to us what they are most seeking in their kind of rapid access options. And certainly that impacts the usage at either option, as well as other options like virtual and things like that, does impact the cost per visit average, which we also look at. In fact, I put some cost per visit information here. If you may recall, the clinic, we made a shift back in 2020 in vendors. It used to be located here. We moved it over to Froedtert, changed vendors, and you can see the per visit cost really plummeted at that point. But we've seen it kind of creeping up, whereas our Fast Care cost has been flat ever since we engaged in that relationship with Froedtert. Again, both are positive benefits that we want to be able to continue to offer, but it is something that we do want the board to know we're always watching, right? We're not being stagnant. We're being mindful of where healthcare dollars are going. Some of the other current free or low-cost options available to staff: Froedtert virtual visits are free. Kaya is a physical therapy virtual program. 2nd.MD was added this past year, which is a free second opinion service for employees. They will sometimes actually call you proactively if they see a claim coming through foreshadowing like a really expensive surgery or something. They'll call and say, hey, you're welcome to go pursue this care, but are you interested in a free second opinion before you do that? So in fact, they called me recently about something. It's a nice way to be proactive and make sure that employees have the right information in front of them before they might experience, some healthcare costs. And then 90-day prescriptions is something we've had for quite a while. So some of the things that we're looking at adding for the coming year, we're still finalizing what would go in this final menu, but physical therapy is something we've really focused on. So anybody who's ever themselves or had a child or spouse who has needed physical therapy, especially like following a surgery or athletics injury or something, knows that those costs add up quickly, right? You might be going to physical therapy for 3 straight months, 2-3 times a week. It's currently a $30 copay, which is not uncommon in the industry, but we have been looking at some relationships with some physical therapy providers to see if there's a way we could have a direct bill relationship that reduces that cost for employees to something maybe half or even a little bit less than half of what they currently pay. So certainly if you are someone that's looking at physical therapy costs, only even just a couple months of frequent visits, cutting that cost in half can be several $100s in savings to an employee. We've also continued to look, and there's a lot of things available within the virtual space. More and more companies are coming up with new innovative ways compared to just the original virtual visit. There's lots of other virtual options. And weight loss is something that we get asked about, additional offerings, so we've been investigating that. Mental health services from a virtual perspective is something we get a lot of questions about because it can be very difficult to find appointments with mental health care providers, and virtual opportunities have become much more common. So we've been looking at how can we provide maybe some more accessible and perhaps low or no cost options for people, especially if it's more acute needs that need more quick intervention and you can't wait several weeks to get in for that first visit. So I've been looking at that, as well as some programs offered through UMR that offer some discounted gym memberships. So kind of looking, that's a wide gamut of pieces, which is good. That means we're looking at the whole picture of wellness, and then we would anticipate in the next month or two coming forward, being able to communicate which options we believe are feasible to add to the battery of opportunities available to staff. One of the other benefits that was added this past year that is another way that employees can reduce their health care costs if they are in a group that would be eligible for this is the Family Savings Plan, or FSP, from Network Health. So real quick explanation, it basically allows an employee, if they leave the district's health plan, usually for a spouse's plan, the district will pay for their out-of-pocket costs on that spouse's plan. So the district reimburses for it. So it's kind of like having a zero deductible health insurance plan. And then the school district also chips in up to $200 a month towards the premium for that employee for that spouse's plan as well. So it's it's really a win-win for employees and for the district. So certainly employees win because they can have a zero deductible healthcare experience paid for at the expense of the school district. And then for the district, you're having fewer members, carried by the plan. It impacts your risk analysis and things like that. So we introduced that in January. We had 5% of employees enroll in it. A somewhat small number. We're going to continue to educate employees about that ahead of open enrollment. But 5% also speaks to the fact that the current plan is quite valuable, that even in comparison to, do I stay on the district's plan or do I take this zero deductible option, the district's plan is still so attractive that the vast majority of employees chose to stay, which is fine. We want to make sure that we're offering a benefit that employees find valuable, and the reception of FSP would seem to indicate that. But we are investigating ways to enhance both the education or perhaps the value of that benefit in general, to make sure that employees that have that option have some good opportunities before them. So we'll keep analyzing that and bring forward any recommendations for enhancement to that on the same timetable in the next 1 to 2 months. As we look ahead at the health insurance plan, so our new plan year, like I said, on all of our benefits is January. We run January through December. As you may recall, there was adjustments in deductibles and out-of-pocket plan design back in January of 2024. So we're in year 2 since those changes were made. We can already say that we've done some analysis of the vendors that we work with, which the primary ones are UMR for medical care and OptumRx for pharmacy benefit management services, and we do not anticipate changes in those vendors for 2026, so we expect to stand pat at this point. We've done some analysis into that, and I have some information here about pharmacy because we have really dug in on pharmacy this year, and we plan to continue an analysis there because when you really look at where healthcare costs are most exploding, pharmacy does tend to be the place that you're going to first. We have a pretty standard copay structure for pharmacy, and we're not anticipating any changes to that for 2026. But just to put it in perspective, the tier 1, those are your generics. Most people are paying $10 per prescription. Generics are by far the most filled drugs. So the majority of our fills are in the generic space, but specialty drugs, which can fall in either tier 2 or tier 3, are by far the most costly. So even though generics are taking up are most of the prescriptions, specialty drugs alone took 58% of the cost, right? So controlling specialty drug cost is really the focus that you see in the health insurance space because of that. So the numbers are always kind of staggering when you're talking about specialty drugs. So the average per script filled of a specialty drug in the district this past year was a cost to the district of right around $10,000 per script, right? And many of those are monthly scripts and so forth. And then they would typically fall in that $45 copay, right? So, you're never gonna pass on $1,000 or some crazy percentage of that to an employee. So what the district needs to do is really make sure that its pharmacy carrier, Optum Rx in this case, or perhaps a different one in the future, is doing the best it can to get the best prices on those specialty drugs, right? So that's something that we want to make sure we're keeping an eye on. That prescription drugs space probably evolves faster than anything else in all of healthcare. So we do expect to continue investigating Optum Rx and pharmacy benefit manager options, potentially for like a 2027 enhancement or as we continue to analyze that. We don't want to get stagnant because that's how you end up in a lose-lose. Employees lose then, the district loses. We want to make sure we stay on the front end of that. As we look ahead at insurance, we don't yet know what the anticipated increase in health insurance costs is for next year, but our insurance broker is generally saying that you're looking at trend for the market of around 6 to 11%. We can say we don't think we'd be anywhere above probably the midway point of that in terms of our increased costs. We are not planning to recommend any changes in plan design, which would mean no changes in deductibles, no changes in out-of-pockets, no changes in co-pays. All of those things would stay the same. But every year, like pretty much every employer, we do adjust premiums, usually tied to whatever that trend ends up being. To just put that in perspective, if let's say we're right in smack dab in the middle of 6 and 11% of a premium increase, on the most popular family plan we have, that equates to about $10 a month. And then on the most popular single plan we have, it's like $6 a month. So no matter where we end up falling in that range, kind of gives you a picture that, while, nobody ever likes to have increases in cost, you're not looking at some of the more explosive increases you sometimes hear about in the news and so forth. So really trying to keep plan design status quo, have that predictability and that consistency, and then just kind of keep up on that trend as far as what the increased costs are. So again, we don't know yet, but want to be able to foreshadow that prior to the fall. On the dental plan, as you may recall, we had an enhancement to the orthodontic benefit for this year, was received very well. We again aren't planning to recommend any changes to network or deductibles or anything that's plan design related around dental insurance. Trend that we're hearing from the insurance brokers around a 5% increase. Our current dental premiums are listed there, so a 5% on a single plan is going to be $1 or less a month kind of thing. So just to put that in perspective, but really trying to again have some consistency in dental insurance as well. And then vision. Vision is a benefit employee paid entirely. The district does not contribute to that. We are looking at perhaps expanding the network. We've had employees inquire, so one of the big providers that's not included in our network is Costco. That's become a very popular place for people to go for vision. So we have looked at, if we could open up that network. Right now, we're just projecting a, fairly small 50 cent to $1 a month change in premiums potentially for next year. So again, we don't know these numbers. We're not putting forth a recommendation tonight, but we wanted to be able to foreshadow for the board, for employees, where things tend to be trending as we look ahead to 2026. So next steps, September, October is typically when we bring forward any premium recommendations. That would also be when we would bring forth, recommendations if we were thinking of some of those enhancements like reduced physical therapy costs, things like that. That foreshadows ahead of our November open enrollment period, which gets us ready for January 1. And then, like we said, we would look at pharmacy carriers, make sure that the district and our employees are getting the best deal that they can out of our current carrier, Optum Rx. But we'll investigate that in the spring to make sure that we're not getting stagnant. So that was a very quick, I think, around the world for a whole lot of employee benefits. Hopefully gives employees a lot of information, especially about, not to be concerned about plan design changes, things like that, but at least give everybody a heads up of as we head into the spring, or I'm sorry, into the fall. Any questions?
Questions? Chris?
I don't know about quick, but I'll make it quick. I imagine that you look at like the state option too every once in a while, ETF, and being able to be a part of that
School
program.
districts
Or
don't
do they not?
have the right to join that
Really?
program yet. It has been proposed by both the left and the right
Yeah.
in this state, actually, and for some reason never picks up momentum because the state plan certainly has its advantages.
I just find that odd since we're eligible for WRS, right? And those other, why not just bucket that together? So we'll have
It's
learn something new every day.
Yeah, it is a statutory piece because there have been changes in law proposed, but they've never, I don't even ever think they've gone to a vote, and I don't know if Superintendent River recalls. It's floated often, but never seems to happen for some reason.
All right.
Which you would think would be a good thing. The more people in that pool, the more you're spreading the risk, the more you're
Exactly.
controlling cost.
Yeah.
But-
Okay.
So I think implicit is we've had a number of years, generally speaking, under the structure and from a budgetary perspective, found it to be sustainable. And so that'll certainly, I'm sure, factor into the ultimate recommendation. But generally speaking, this has been a budgetarily sustainable
Yep.
construct.
Which is also why you can continue to say, let's another year forward of the same plan design, not making big shakeups in vendors or carriers and things.
Great. Other questions?
Question on the clinic usage. You mentioned the decline from the same quarter 2 years ago. Do you know what the total number of visits was in Q1 2025?
I'll have to look and get you that number because we look at it both in terms of two different numbers. One is just like episodic visits, so just I'm not feeling well. And then we've also had these wellness visits in the past where you would go get a wellness check and that would qualify you for certain premium discounts and things like that. We phased that out because we weren't seeing a ton of value. We had a lot of feedback from employees, but the number really changes depending on if you're including that number. So I'll get that number for you.
Same with the fast care, just curious of the total
Yep,
visits.
I do know that. So I don't know the exact last month, but our highest ever fast care month is 90 visits. That was in the last few months. I think we are averaging 60 to 70, I believe, right now in terms of fast care. When we first started, it was 5, right? And then it's just caught on more and more.
Thank you.
Other questions? We appreciate the heads up. More to come in the future.
All right.
Thank you very much. All right, we move to our action items tonight. Our first action is book club consideration for The Glass Castle. And I have Erin Faust walking us through this. Is that correct?
Nothing really new to walk through, so
All
I
right,
can speak
sorry.
to some changes.
I was gonna say.
We talked about it last time with the full board discussion. Erin's here in case I need some in-depth backup. One of the things from last time's conversation, we talked about splitting the conversation in two pieces. One was consideration of the books to get teachers the answer for yes or no inclusion, and then the conversation around the process and some of the pieces that Melanie foreshadowed that we started in curriculum, we'll pick up again in policy, and it'll come back to the board. So that's why you see us moving forward on this piece. In the interim, the only ask was that we kind of look at it instead of just the by the numbers, because that's a really hard decision, is maybe how many scenes were there. So Erin went back and kind of grouped those iterations by scene for you in the different texts for consideration. So, and you had some pieces and some nuances between the two titles. That's why we've separated them. And there was discussion, in case you wanted to see a title reserved for, because we do not have a threshold right now that splits our high school between 9th and 10th or 11th and 12th. So that's certainly an opportunity for the board as well. So those were the pieces that we've updated since our last discussion so that you could make a decision this evening.
So as a reminder, I'm not sure if we want to take them together or separately. Why don't we start with The Glass Castle? So Just as a reminder, so this would be for book club. And can you just remind us again what book club is and also at what grade level we're talking
Sure.
about?
So this is, Glass Castle is being requested for use in Honors English, which is 9th grade. Book clubs are not whole class books. Students and families receive a permission slip with multiple choices for a specific unit of study that relates to the themes or whatever their unit of study relates to. So they're looking at this piece. One of the things we had a loosely described level as some for obscene language. So that's kind of why we were bringing this one forward. But again, it's requested for Honors English 9th grade. as a selection choice. Further, once students make that selection, they have to be authorized by their parents to make the selections. Parents are provided an opportunity at the beginning of the year to sign a permission slip that gives kind of the whole year. Yep, I only want my child to be reading in that have none, that have this, or that have that, and they can give permission, or they can do it unit by unit and select titles with their child. But they have to be authorized in some way by their family. So even if a family fails to turn in a permission slip for any of these book club opportunities, then they automatically revert to the 0 instances. Their choices are actually limited by not turning that in. It doesn't mean they get that full menu. So there's those pieces. So this is Glass Castle, just a request for use in Honors English 1 with 9th grade.
I said general thoughts. Others? I'll yield the floor. I think, all right, I'll start. First of all, I think I know a lot of work has gone into the current process, thanks mostly to our curriculum committee and also a little bit to policy, but to the board as a whole. And I think the idea that these books have been brought forward for additional scrutiny is indicative that this process is working. I know we still have a ways to go, but I think we're farther along on our journey. I started by thinking, well, a natural test for this would be, well, if I had a child in this class, would it be one that I would, necessarily recommend for them to read? And I think that's a good natural place to start. I think at the same time, it's also important that, well, just because I think I may or may not want my child to read it, does that mean that there's another parent who would agree or disagree with me? I think in the past we've had this discussion that there are some parents who say, my child benefits actually from exploring some of these really tough topics under the supervision of a teacher with parental knowledge and understanding. And so I think that's a balancing factor. Superintendent Wimber, can you remind me, is this one of the books that appears on one of the reading lists for?
For AP, no, that's the next one. Color Purple appears in the upper grades on the advanced placement class lists.
Yeah, that's helpful. I appreciate
This one,
that.
though, is when we did some background, again, their individual syllabi are not easily accessible, but you do see both in some technical college and college-level courses as well, so for either title.
Yeah, and it's a little bit of a struggle because sometimes you might think, well, I'm not sure about this book, but it does appear on curricula lists for colleges, and we talk about arming our children to be college ready or career ready. And so I think that's a balancing factor as well. I think we have this opt-in permission system in place, and I think that's a big tiebreaker with the safeguard that you can't default into this. It requires active permission on the part of a parent. I think for that, as well as the fact that it's in a book club, I think when you balance all the factors, I'm comfortable with approving and offering. And I'm not sure what other board members think, but I'll just get the discussion started that way. Other thoughts? Joe?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, I hadn't finished either of these books at the last board meeting. I'd finished the Ender's Game, but not these. But now I have. So, I can see how some of the passages would make some people uncomfortable, maybe not want their kids to read them, but I think that there is a lot of value to both these books, a lot of lessons that can be learned from them about, survival and overcoming adversity. And as you said, since the parents, guardians have the option to, or have to opt in to these books, after knowing the content, I'm comfortable with approving as well.
I have a similar train of thought to what Joe and you have already indicated with the active consent, respecting not every family has the same viewpoints and keeping that open. So I am comfortable with having these safeguards in place that we could allow it as an optional reading book versus the core curriculum.
Mm-hmm. Melanie?
Yep, and I'll just come on and share. My perspective is that I just don't think the sexual content and the profanity should be offered in school. I think kids are exposed to it outside of school all the time, and I just don't think school is the place for it. So I'm not going to be supporting.
Mm-hmm. Well, thank you for sharing. Appreciate that.
Just
to add to it. I think I stick to this. I consistently say that it should be in the parents' hands and the family's hands and up to each individual family. So even seeing this, my son is going into this grade, will be reading it, and if I would highly recommend it for him anyways. Thankfully, it's not a lifestyle that he's exposed to, and I think that's a really good point to this as well, that all of these sometimes make us uncomfortable with what the story is about, and it's good to read different from your own life.
Thanks.
I guess it's my turn since everybody else spoke.
No pressure.
Yeah.
No pressure.
Well, again, these are two different topics, right? We have the first book, The Glass Castle, and The Color Purple, and I guess I have more comments to give on the Color Purple. But overall, I mean, I'm torn. I feel I'm a little bit between where Melanie's at. I'm not a strict, you can't be exposed to it all here in the school district. But I also think that we need to, not that we're safeguarding our children, but make sure that this is the right type of academic material that matches the curriculum that fits into this specific grade. So I guess my question for both of these books, and I don't know who can answer it, is explain to me why at a 10th grade level, this is appropriate material for them to be reading. What value does it give to the academic, structure, what they're learning about? There's a little bit of notes in that in the packet, but can somebody maybe connect those dots for me?
Sure. On Glass Castle specifically, I had the opportunity to speak with the teacher who had experience in teaching this in the past. And again, until we put some of these filters in place, that was something that was taught without, question, without any concerns coming forward. This is an honors level class, so while 9th grade, it's honors level material and designed for that. In the unit that it's being taught, there's 7 representative themes, and this one is hitting on all. So the other choices, I'd have to harken back to my notes, and I don't have those in front of me, hit on some of those themes in that unit, so kids could certainly select those, but this was just providing that choice, and again, that we had a little bit to foreshadow some of that conversation in curriculum around, is there a nuance when it's honors level coursework? Is there a nuance between kind of those upper grades in those classes and those pieces? So it's certainly, like I said, we find ourselves exploring right now. It's whatever comfort level the board has. We just need to answer these pieces and then, as you said, kind of take on what's the tenets of, in the future, when we vet them, is there a line in that high school as well? So I felt there was clarity provided from the instructional staff on Glass Castle.
Okay. Well, like I said, I have more comments for the latter book, but I'll separate our agenda items. So for Glass Castle, I'll happy to make a motion to approve that.
Right, consider that a motion. Do we have a second? We have a motion and second to approve book club consideration for The Glass Castle as presented. I appreciate the discussion so far. Any additional discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. The record, that's right, thank you. The record will reflect that Melanie has voted no. Thank you, that motion passes, 5 in favor and 1 opposed. Thank you. We move then to book club consideration for The Color Purple. Superintendent Wimmer, I don't know if you want to repeat the process.
So the same stands true. For this being a book club, it is not part of required reading. It is simply a selection that was asked to be advanced onto the potential list for, again, an honors level class for 10th grade. So that's a consideration, and that is where, as I said, our curriculum committee discussion centered around the nuance of grade levels. Is there a split between those 11th, 12th graders? Is there a difference on that? And this list, this book specifically is included in the advanced placement list. So while we offer that AP literature course, it is also not used in that class either currently. So that does sit in that upper level, but is not used by that other class.
Thank you. We'll open it to discussion. Chris,
All right,
since
I'll just keep going.
you foreshadowed, we'll.
Sure.
Thank you.
So I did look more into The Color Purple. I think that this one does have more risque, I guess I'll put it, topics and discussions than The Glass Castle. I reviewed different recommendations for age groups and scholarly work of where it would sit. And it does seem to be that not that it's not appropriate for high school, but a latter level of high school, whether it's 11th or 12th grade. In the description here in the packet, under the color purple, for unit purpose, we have that the book should be included as an option because all students deserve all possible options. Great, but if that's your only argument, well, then why do we have a rubric and why do we have, all of these things that we're going through? So to me, I was convinced that, again, why is it at the 10th grade level? I'm not opposed to the book. I'm not opposed to its academic, perspective in being here. I'm just not convinced yet that this should specifically be allowed in 10th grade, when it seems like the data that I found, it's probably more of an upper level high school book. So that's kind of where I'm at.
Thank you.
Yep.
Other thoughts?
I'm sure everyone knows how I feel about it.
No, it's all right, please.
This
No,
one
no.
has definitely a lot more sexual content and profanity and that type of language, sexually related. So I'm just going to be a no on this one as well. I think it's definitely higher level. If people want to read it in college or outside of school, that's their choice. But for offering it as a selection, I don't think it's appropriate.
Thank you. Superintendent Wimmer, just to follow up on Mr. Jenkins' thoughts, if the board were to say comfortable with an 11th or 12th, I know this is being proposed for 10th grade. Walk us through that. If the board came back and said, what would that look like?
Sure, that would be easy, as the board is in progress on conversations to go next to policy and back to the board again. We don't have that threshold in place right now. This is a early grade request, so you'd be voting no on tonight's request, and then we'd continue the conversations forward and wrap that into when we bring some of those process questions back to us. We could use this as a piece. As we said, we started looking at thresholds. We think that there is a difference between your freshmen, your seniors, advanced courses, those pieces that could be fleshed out more. So I don't think that it would be detrimental because we're continuing the conversations, and this is a no right now. We can certainly bring that back when we clear up some of those pieces that we find unclear in our process, and it either answers the question more definitively or creates another avenue for a request. But I think you should be comfortable and confident in having a choice in front of you to do so.
Great, thank you. I appreciate the clarification. Other thoughts? Kelly?
Yeah, just one, we've talked about this before, and having the knowledge of the teachers in this. I think voting to support this and have this, like they're asking to keep this, I think that we as a board should turn to them as subject matter experts in what they're teaching. And if this is where they find appropriate, I would support that. I also think that we've talked about in the past that if they would have a student that chooses this and they don't feel that that would be appropriate for that student, the teacher will also step in at that point and not allow that. So I think there's a few levels of the appropriate, of this is read by.
Thank you. June?
My thoughts on this particular book is that it's very heavy, but it's accurately depicted historically. I'm leaning a little bit towards allowing it in the 11th, 12th band versus the 10, so.
Joe, any thoughts? Putting people on the spot tonight.
I don't know that I have anything all that different than what I said before. I can see the case for moving it to an older grade. On the other hand, I do acknowledge that it's an honors course. You would assume that those kids are more mature than maybe some of their counterparts. And again, it is the parents' choice to allow or not allow their kids to read this if it's put in front of them. So I would be comfortable with approving it at this level.
Yeah, I mean, I think, and I appreciate the discussion on this book and the others. This was, I think, when I was a sophomore in college, it was at Marquette. We were assigned this book, and so I was curious if it still was on reading list, and this one is, I think, actually on college.
It is. Ones that we could find, like I said, they're a little bit more generalized, but I could find evidence of it both in a technical school as well as a college university level. And again, it sits on the AP or advanced placement course, the national list. It's just not utilized.
Yeah, I'm a big believer in if the parent has to give active permission as it relates to, well, why is this a book choice? It is on college book lists. I think depending whether this goes through tonight or not, I think it's important that we look at the factors going forward, because I think there could be some additional clarification that could have helped us navigate this. But I think with parental consent, I'd be inclined to allow the book, especially because it appears on college lists, but also more so because the parents have the choice. And these are tough topics. And, the choice is if, I think there are some parents that appreciate the fact that these are topics that are explored in the structure of a classroom as opposed to having a student fend for themselves, so to speak, in the world. I think I would be inclined to support it, but I think it would be important for us to use this as a continued example to see if there need to be updated tweaks and changes to the policies that we have in place. All right, so we've said our piece. Does anyone care to make a motion?
Can I just say one comment and then
Of
I'll make a
course.
motion? I don't ever want us as a board to feel like we're in between parents, families, and teachers, right? And I think the fact that we have that kind of sign-off form is a great way to protect ourselves and shield ourselves from families and protect those families. But at the same time with the teachers, I think it's they're doing their due diligence to prove to us again, why going through this rubric, why it still should be a meaningful piece of that curriculum. And I'm just saying, when I look at the explanation that's here, I mean, they didn't prove it out to me. And I want to be able to support them and what they do and their recommendations. And so if they were to come back, right, with that, whether it's a different grade level or just a better reasoning for the 10th grade, that I'm, more willing to hear about. I just didn't see that here. So with all that, I guess I'll make a motion to deny.
We have a motion to deny. Is there a second to the motion to deny? I'll second. Thank you, Melanie. We've got a motion and second to deny, and I interpret that as to not include this in the book club.
Yep.
All right.
And can I ask for a roll call vote just because I feel like we might need it?
I don't think that's a problem at all.
Okay.
All right. Any additional discussion before I call that motion? All right, we have a motion to deny, meaning it would not appear on the book club list. I'll call that motion. Ms. Kruger. And take your time. That's totally fine.
And a yes would be to deny, a no would be.
A yes would be to deny.
Just so we're clear.
Yeah, a yes would be to deny.
Say no.
Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
So I just want to be clear that you know what you're saying. So you are in favor of it appearing on a book club list?
Mr. Jenkins, you voted yes, that's correct?
Correct.
Yes to deny. Ms. Lang?
No.
Ms. Aragot?
Yes, to deny.
Yes to deny. Dr. Temez is absent. Mr. Zweig votes no. And Mr. Pickler?
No.
1, 2, 3, 4. So we have, so the book is not denied. However, what we need to do is, what that means is we actually need to take action. We would need to take a motion to add or approve it to the list. So, but that is instructive. Thank you. Any questions on that so far? I'll change it then to say I move to, I want to get the wording correct here. Motion to approve the book club consideration for The Color Purple as presented. Would there be a second to that?
Second.
Kelly will give you that second. We have a motion and second to approve The Color Purple for addition to the book club as presented. Final discussion on that.
Would it be for the 10th grade?
That's a good question.
So it
That's the
is
intent, but allows-
requested for the Honors English course. So Honors English 2, which is generally a 10th grade class. So Honors English 2.
June, do you have additional thoughts on that? Okay, just want to be sure. All right, so we have a motion on the floor. I'll call roll call again, if that's all right. And this would be to add to the book club list. Ms. Aragot? No. And Mr. Pickler? Yes. Mr. Jenkins?
Nope.
Ms. Lang?
Yes.
Dr. Temez is absent. Mrs. Swiger votes yes. Ms. Kruger?
Yes.
That vote carries four yes and 2 no. We appreciate the discussion. I think Superintendent Wimmer, there was discussion throughout about next steps with regard to the process, because we may continue to change the process where there are existing book club selections which may not appear, or vice versa. Is that correct?
Correct. The next conversation about this will be taken up in policy August 19th. We'll summarize those thoughts, some of, again, that you use these 2 titles to leverage where we need to clear up and revise process. And then it'll come back to the full board for future discussion. And then however that goes, that may impact future lists as well.
All right. I appreciate the discussion and the openness for the board, and thank you for addressing the issue. Moving on then to our agenda. We are now to future agenda items. We'll start with the board meeting calendar. Our future meetings are as follows. We have the policy committee meeting. Superintendent Wimmer, I think you referenced that. 4 p.m. Education Service Center on August 19. And on August 25th is our regular school board meeting at 5:30 p.m., also Education Service Center. Curriculum Committee has a meeting, 4:30 p.m. on September 2 at the Education Service Center. Our next, then after that, regular school board meeting, 5:30 p.m. on September 8th, and that's at the Education Service Center. Then we have a note here, Superintendent Wimmer, on September 22, we have 2 items, our budget hearing at 6:30 p.m. and our 106th annual meeting of the electors at 7 p.m. at the Silver Linings Auditorium at the high schools. So that one's a little bit unusual from our normal monthly updates, so the public should take note of that. We encourage our public to look for the official meeting postings as the time or the date or the location may change. And also I'll point out, I think, Kelly, you and I talked in advance on September 8th, which is a regular school board meeting. I currently have a trip scheduled out of state, and so Kelly is ready to go to chair that meeting. All right, are there any other questions on the calendar at this point? All right. Any other items for follow-up and communication? All right. Hearing none, we have an item that is appropriate to discuss in executive session. So I make a motion to adjourn into executive session pursuant to Wisconsin Statute 19.851C to consider employment, promotion, compensation, or performance evaluation data of any public employee over which the governmental body has jurisdiction or exercises responsibility, and take any such action if necessary based on its discussion, namely compensation. Is there a second? We'll give that one to Chris. Thank you. Motion and second to adjourn into executive session. Any final discussion? This requires a roll call vote, so I'll call the roll. Mr. Pickler? Ms. Lang?
Yes.
Ms. Aragot? Yes. Mr. Jenkins?
Yes.
Mr. Swigert votes yes. Dr. Temez is absent. And Ms. Kruger? Yes. Thank you. That motion carries, and we are adjourned into executive session. Thank you to those for attending tonight or for watching our meeting. We look forward to seeing you in a future meeting. Have a good evening.